with this one statement that the United Nations, at the behest of the government of India, particularly our Prime Minister, when it proposed this in the UN Council, 172 countries immediately responded and said yes. Then everybody else came in later on. Never before for any resolution, 172 countries in UN have agreed upon one thing. This one thing, all of them agreed that this is needed. This is not just about declaring a certain day, because there is even a bubble bath day. All kinds of days. It's not about that. United Nations is even thinking of how to make yoga as a tool to fulfill the sustainable development goals. Because slowly the world is realizing that without an inner experience of unity, without an inner experience of inclusiveness, everything that we do, even if we start with the best intentions, it can go all bad simply because of the divisive nature of human intellect. It divides everything. Dissecting and dividing everything is not the answer. This continuous dissection with every human being thinking that they have razor-sharp intellect, always going on dissecting everything and making a mess out of it. See, there have been jnana yogis who had worked upon their mind, their intellect, for years or sometimes lifetimes, to get to such a point of sharpness that by dissection they could divulge and realize the reality. But most people's it should be that kind of a knife, I mean. But most people have an intellect whose front edge is somewhat like this. If they try to dissect with this, they will smash everything. This is all that's happening. Because to pursue realization through one's intellect, the work is not upon realization, the work is upon the intellect. Continuously sharpening it, sharpening it, sharpening it in such a way that it will slice through everything. They say, in India there are certain martial cultures where this is largely gone, but only at the wedding time a man has to prove that he is a man. So he will take a sword and cut a banana, a tree or a stem. In one slice he must go. In Japan they have traditions of… because of the samurai and other kinds of traditions, they chop bamboos to prove how sharp the sword is and how skillful you are, both skillful and strong you are. So if you slice the banana stem, generally the expectation you must slice it in such a way that the stem doesn't realize what happened, so it must sit right there. It's two pieces, but it's sitting right there, you must slice it like that. That means you should have refined your sword to such a point and also your skill and your strength. Well, if you have that kind of a razor-sharp, super-sharp intellect, yes. But if you have this kind, it's better to drink it. Don't don't try to dissect with a blunt object. If you try to dissect with a blunt object, well, you will have mincemeat. You will not see anything that is there. This happened. A biology teacher was demonstrating a dissection of a frog. Poor frogs. Everybody is interested in seeing what is inside that poor frog. And he's always speaking out, this is what is in my heart, but nobody listens. They want to use a knife. So he was dissecting this and explaining things to the students. Not everybody is interested in the frog, there are other interests. So, as he was doing this and explaining various organs and stuff in the frog, he said, if I dissect a human being, what do you think will happen? One boy said, well, you will find yourself behind the bars. So, this dimension of yoga is not that different human beings are not capable of this, but it'll need an enormous amount of work. Most people don't have. See, it needs a certain passion to simply sharpen the knife, sharpen the knife, sharpen the knife, sharpen the knife, and not use it because you don't want to spoil the knife. You're not going to cut vegetables and cook with this knife, no. People who have passion for their sport, they're sharpening, 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 they never use it. Because if you use it, it will go. That needs a certain kind of passion or madness towards that. And how long it will take to get that knife to that level of sharpness, well, it depends on various factors. Above all, how intensely one is focused on that. How to go on preparing a tool without using it, that needs enormous discipline. If you have a little sharp knife, you would like to cut everything that you see and see how it works. I see this happening all around. If I give you a knife, you would like, as you're going, you would like to cut this plant and see, do that and see, cook vegetables and see, just about anything. To prepare an instrument without using it for any purpose takes a certain level of discipline and focus, which unfortunately, normally people don't have, they will have to work. So it's better to use other faculties. If you are stupid enough to get angry, for example, I'm sorry, if you are passionate enough to get angry, then right now it's become fashionable all over the world to say, this is my passion. Yoga is my passion. No, for me yoga is just a tool. I've learned how to use the tool. For you it's your passion, you hug it, you kiss it, you keep it on your head, it doesn't work. That's it. It's like I gave you a screwdriver, you suck on it, you put it in your ears, poke it in your eyes, it doesn't work. Only that loose nut you can tighten a bit. Only then it works. So, people don't like technical words, they like… So once you're like this, don't think you are an intellectual. You're not. Or maybe you have a little sappy heart, at least use that. If you're angry, if you're frustrated, even if you're miserable, obviously you're an emotional person. You better use your emotion in a good way. Using your emotion in a good way means, with emotion you don't try to cut, then it'll be like this kind of knife. You don't try to cut things with emotion. Emotion is about ignoring all the things and simply, that's emotion. Just embracing the world, that's emotion. Right now you're using emotion to dissect, all you will leave is mincemeat of your own life. You are not going to make mincemeat of anybody else. You will make a mincemeat of your own life, that's all. Because you're using a blunt object which should be used in some other way to dissect. This is a mess. All you will leave is a mess in the end. So yoga I just turned on the television to see the news and across the world, varieties of yoga that people are doing. It's both very, satisfying that just all over the world, in all kinds of places, somebody is doing yoga standing knee-deep in the snow, somebody is doing it in the desert, somebody is doing it with their children, somebody with their dog, somebody this way, that way, all kinds. Well, it's cute and nice, it's amusing, it's scary. All things at once. I'm glad so many people wanting to do yoga. But what yoga they should do, how they should do, nobody to tell them. Everybody thinks, because we are going with the dissection example, we'll continue, otherwise I'll have to invent another one, okay? Everybody thinks they can, nitya anitya vicharam. That means you're able to decipher with the sharpness of your mind what is absolute and what is transient, what is eternal and what is momentary. You're able to decipher. Oh, but for that you need a very sharp knife, not a vessel or a ball. With that you are not going to do dissection. With that, if you have a vessel for a mind, no, I'm saying there's lots of pure water. I'm not saying vessel in a bad way. If you have a round object, then you must just embrace. You don't try to decipher which is high, which is low, which is eternal, which is momentary. All this you don't go, you just embrace everything as it is. That means you do not decipher what is high, what is low, what is God, what is devil, what is good, what is bad, what is me, what is you. You don't decipher. You treat everything the same way because you don't have a very sharp knife. No, Sadhguru, I'm very smart, even in my school they said I'm very smart, I got first rank. Usually, first rank people are all… I have nothing against them, I'm not saying this because I didn't get it. I never aspired for it. It never occurred to me that I have to be first in anything. I don't know, that thought never came to me. And I thought it's a very poor number. I mean, it's a least denomination. Generally in my class, I think almost right through my school days, it's somewhere between 24 to 36, 37 students is what I had in my class. I always took the top number. Yeah, there are 35 people, I'm 35. So, because of that, I did not think on those terms, but I'm saying, when you are not willing to spend enormous amount of effort and time in sharpening your knife, it's best to embrace everything as it is. No up, no down, no high, no low, no love, no hate, simply everybody as it is. Insect, bird, worm, human beings, men, women, children, whatever, you just… everything. This is not a bad path, it's very good. It is just because more than 70% of the human beings on this planet are far more emotional than they are mentally sharp or energetically intense or physically very enhanced, more than 70%. The highest among the four dimensions of body, mind, emotion and energy, 70% are emotionally strong. Only thing is their emotions are against themselves or against somebody. See, even if you have an emotion against somebody, it only works against you. Once in a way you can take out on them. See, right now I hate this guy. I'm using him because his eyes closed, so it's okay. See, he doesn't mind, okay? I hate this guy. Once in a way I may get to meet him somewhere and abuse him. Rest of the time he just burns my heart out. Acidity will come in the stomach, hatred people It'll rise to the head one day and give you tumor in the head. Because by hating someone, you're not doing anything to him, you are destroying this one. So whether it's anger or hatred or jealousy or resentment, is not against somebody, it's only against you. If you learn how not to turn your emotions against yourself, if you understand negative emotion, see, because emotion can give you such a high. To get that kind of a thought, please try this, to get that kind of a thought that you will feel, when did it happen to you? For most people it's never happened. I would say only 2 to 3% of the population in the world get that kind of thought, such penetrating thought, it's liberating and wow thought. For most other people, they're capable of getting that kind of an emotion. They can feel an emotion where they'll feel, everybody's experienced at least a few moments in their life. So that they are emotionally capable of growth. So the same emotion, if it hits the bottom, of course it'll take you to hell. Because hell and heaven are two sides of the same coin, you must just learn to flip it right. Or like me, you must fix the coin, both sides heaven. But Sadhguru, you said there is no hell, heaven, you said there is reincarnation, I will come back. It once happened. It happened. Shankaran Pillai was having a conversation with his wife. Don't tell anybody, this is between husband and wife, okay? And Shankaran Pillai asked, this is a spiritual conversation, asked, what is reincarnation? The wife was bored with this kind of conversation, she was doing some little embroidery. Then she said, reincarnation means you will come back in a completely different way than the way you are right now. Then Shankaran Pillai thought about it and said, does it mean to say, in my next life I can come back as a pig? His wife said, you are not listening to me properly, I said you will come back in a completely different way. So this is why, because 70% of the people are more capable of their emotions, hitting either peak or depths. Emotional depths and emotional peaks people know, but intellectual peaks, very few people know. I'm not saying one is better than the other, they're different kinds of tools. See, if you are a screw, we need a screwdriver. If you're a nut, we need a spanner. If you're a pipe, we need a winch. Like this, tools. Don't make it one above the other. Right now, because of the type of schooling that you're going through, everybody has this wrong image. Being intellectually sharp is better than being emotionally, embracing. No, it's not like that. Everything has its own beauty and all of them have the same level of possibility. Only problem is how you will use the tool, that's all. Just by building your body and using your action, you can do it. Or by raising your energies, you can do it. But needs work. You're saying, keeping… even though there is a lockdown, all of you, most of you not going to work for nearly 3 months. I told you at least you must be 10% more fit than the way you were 3 months ago. 10% Sadhguru? 3 months! You should have said, Sadhguru, why 10%? I will be 100% better than the way I am today. 90 days, no work. I can exercise 5 times a day if I want. Could have been done because we've been very busy in the lockdown being here. But otherwise, you're locked in an apartment, what are you doing? What are you doing? Maybe couch, television, in the children's yoga programs, to inspire the children, one fundamental thing, principle that we teach them is, I complete what I start. So one day, because A1 potato chips in Coimbatore city was available in discount, fearing that during the lockdown they may not be able to sell, they started selling 5 kg packets instead of 1 kg. Discount. Everything is on discount, even inner engineering on discount, No. There are people here who will get very insulted, potato chips, inner engineering, everything on discount. So such a big bag of potato chips, and in his… see, Shankaran Pillai is still not enrolled for inner engineering, but he had done the children's program. His wife looked at this sack of potato chips and she said, what are you doing? He said, I complete what I start. So I'm saying everything, just everything can be subverted. Everything, you can turn it against yourself. We give you a brain, that becomes your problem. And if I say, no, you can conduct your brain the way you want it, the whole bunch of people, they're a depression company. They've been picking on me, why can't I pick on them? They're saying, he doesn't know what is depression. Depression happens, nobody chooses. Chemical changes happen. Arey, that is what even I'm saying. Do some yoga, chemical changes will happen. What else do you think I'm saying? Anyway, for all of you, to tell you something, because recently these papers have been published, maybe you already read it. A certain group of scientists and doctors in United States, from Indiana University, some from Harvard University, Rutgers and Florida, they studied people who've been practicing inner engineering for 90 days. That is, what is that? Oh, monkeys. See, the teaching is getting popular. They also believe they could be evolved like you. How many of you came that way? No, it's good for me that we transformed monkeys into human beings. It's a very good, you know, because I want to tell you that the genetic tendencies are changing simply with the inner engineering practices. So they recorded all these things, the biomarkers and everything. I will put it as briefly as possible. It's an elaborate paper running into hundreds of pages. But to put it very simply, one thing that determines the nature of your experience and your mental and emotional condition is what is called as BDNF, that is brain-derived neurotropic factors. So the BDNF is higher in a positive way, threefold, 300% in 90 days. I can imagine how you guys were before you started. Threefold increase, that means keeping your emotions in balance, keeping in a good state of experience and sharpness of mind and pleasantness of experience shouldn't even be a problem, 300% increase. There is another dimension. You know what is a cannabinoid? So, a cannabinoid means like today what is popularly in India it is known as ganja, or everywhere else it's known as marijuana. In different places it's known by different names. But essentially, these are plant extracts which have a certain influence on the mood and experience of the person. But there are millions of cannabis receptors both in your brain and across the body. Because you are supposed to produce it, you're not supposed to smoke it. So now, with the inner engineering practices, it's clearly… the biomarkers clearly establish that your endocannabinoid production is significantly higher. That means you are stoned by yourself, you don't need any outside help. But the impact of the endocannabinoids compared to the cannabinoids that come from outside are very, very different. It makes you intoxicated and super alert at the same time, because along with it, certain other secretions happen. And the 230 genes which are fundamentally responsible for your immune system are also highly enhanced with 90 days of practice.
So the first question is, most of us have a understanding of the word conscious or unconscious, and for those of us who don't, we can look at a dictionary and understand what that word means. But from a spiritual point of view, or from your point of view, or from your understanding or your experience, what does it mean to live a conscious life? What does it mean to live an unconscious life? and at a personal level? And how does that translate into a worldview?
Well, well, Kunal, you've introduced me well, so I can go ahead without any breaks on it. Well, to put it simply, you cannot understand what is consciousness. Because understanding always comes from accumulated knowledge about something. Essentially, consciousness means an intelligence within you which is not shackled by your memory, an intelligence which is completely unsullied by your memory. There is an dimension of intelligence within you which is untouched by memory. Everything else about you is memory, whether it is evolutionary memory, genetic memory, karmic memory, conscious, unconscious, subconscious memories, various types of memories. In yoga we see 8 different dimensions of memory. Everything that you are, the shape of your nose, the color of your skin, the way you sit, the way you stand, the way you speak, everything that you call as myself is an amalgamation of a very complex dimensions of memory. But there is a dimension of intelligence within you which is not ruled by your memory. Why is this dimension so important? Because memory means survival. Memory means a boundary. What is within my memory is familiar to me, what is outside of my boundary is strange, or well, you're in California, it's weird, all right? Anything that's not in your anything that's not in your memory is bound to be weird. So, what is in my memory is my friend, what is not in my memory, who is not in my memory is a stranger. This is the basis of your experience. So there is a dimension of intelligence within you which is unsullied by memory. Only when you touch this dimension, do you know what it means by saying limitless or boundless in terms of experience. Because every other experience is encapsulated within the shackles of your memory. As useful as it is, the memory, it is also a prison. It is our survival, it is also a self-imprisonment. Survival of the self and self-imprisonment, both these things are done. Memory is a wall that you have created, within which there is a whole world of your own. But memory means in some way physiological and psychological process. Your physiological process may be run by the evolutionary memory and genetic memories, your psychological process is run by a variety of other dimensions of memory, but essentially, memory means your physiology and your psychology. The biggest mistake that we have done right now in the world, especially the Western societies, the way they're looking at it is, we have misunderstood or mixed up rather psychological realities and existential realities. So this is why always we are trying to understand something. The way we are talking about India right now, the way the Indian culture or the Bharat has looked at is, it is always about realization, not about understanding. So consciousness can be realized but never understood.
Thank you for that. Along those lines, if we are shaped by our memory, if our consciousness is shaped by our memory,
No, I would like to
what
correct
can
the
we do
question.
to…
Our consciousness is not
Yes.
shaped by memory, our conscience may be shaped by memory, because conscience is a social phenomenon.
If our memory is our prison, what can we do to get out of jail?
Before we call it a prison, we must also understand, today the way you are, your memory is also your possibility. Everything that you're doing is from your memory. A whole lot of your memory may not be conscious memory, but see, the English word conscious is used in many different ways, so there could be confusions about that. We are talking in terms of physiologically being conscious or unconscious, psychologically being conscious or unconscious. Consciousness, we'll keep the word consciousness little away for the sake of understanding. Being conscious and unconscious is a different aspect. So, Everything that you are, from the shape of your body, from the color of your skin, the way you understand life, the way you perceive life, everything is ruled by your memory. So it is also your possibility. At the same time, it is a limitation. You will realize the limitation of your memory only when a longing to grow beyond these limitations arises within you. See, every human being has a longing to be something more than what they are right now. But that something more is a very incremental piece. So this is why we need to fast forward our life and see right now. Little desires that you have, when you were a 8-year-old boy, maybe your greatest desire was a bicycle or something like that. Then it went on expanding. So this desiring process is a longing to expand within a human being. This longing to expand, we are going in an incremental way, by installments. Right now sit here, everything that you have desire for, let's say it's right now come true, what's next? You will desire something else, something else, something else. Just do all this right now in the next 5 minutes. Everything else that you could possibly desire till the end of your life. If all of it is done right now, what is next? Then you will see you still want to expand in an unknowing way. You still want to be something more than who you are. When this longing becomes a conscious process, then naturally you're seeking to break the limitations of what you know. This is why in yoga, the yogic culture always saw that knowledge is a limitation. We never identify with our knowledge. We always identified with our ignorance. Because what I know, it doesn't matter how much I know, what I know is a minuscule in this existence. If you compare what you know to the cosmic space, it is an absolute minuscule. But what you do not know, your ignorance is boundless. So we always identify with our ignorance. The entire culture has been built upon it. This is something that has been seriously misunderstood by the rest of the world. Why India has been the way it's been, though there is an immense amount of knowledge right from ancient times, why is it they refuse to exploit knowledge? Because they saw that exploiting knowledge more and more, just using it to the extent that it is necessary for your life is different, but basing your life on the knowledge that you possess will ultimately trap you in a way that you cannot extricate yourself. That you start building, it's like a spider's web, you start building the web of your knowledge and you get trapped in it. Right now, see, whole lot of people are trapped on the internet, but we are making use of it, it's good.
So what role does knowledge play? What role does intellect play in moving forward, in shaping a planet that we want to inhabit for a long time? What role can those things that all of us use on a daily basis that we know, how can we use those things to our advantage and not be entrapped by them?
I don't know whether you use this consciously or not, but you use two words in this question which are very significant: intellect and knowledge. Because your intellect is absolutely useless if you do not have a bank of memory, which is knowledge. If you do not have any memory, if I wipe out all your memory, you will find your intellect is useless. So today we have this experience. Like today you buy a new computer, maybe the best in the world. Fantastic. I am not saying it's not fantastic, it has brought many possibilities into our lives. Knowledge is useful as a survival tool. Intellect is useful as a survival tool. When we say survival, maybe if we were whatever number of years ago, we were cavemen. You are beginning to look like one, I have always been one, all right? No, the beard grows naturally on a man, but somehow it's become weird these days. Because someday it may so happen, nose will be weird and everybody will remove their nose because, today the virus is there. Mask is not weird anymore, mask is normal,
Yeah,
all right? It's a new
yeah.
normal.
It
So,
depends
what is
where
our…
you are.
Today, wherever you are, mask is normal. You don't have to be a bank robber for that. So, this intellect cannot function without knowledge. That means what can it do? It can recycle the data that you already have in various permutations and combinations, but it cannot come up with anything new because its is in its knowledge. So, what is the use of knowledge? Knowledge could enhance our physiological and psychological existence. But how much will you enhance it, I'm asking?
Hmm.
Physiologically, if your food is taken care of, your health is taken care of, its basic needs are taken care of the body, it's a done thing. There is nothing more you can do. But today you see a weird world trying to do all kinds of things to stretch physical experiences.
Hmm.
Why there is such a overflow of alcohol, drugs, sexuality is simply because people are trying to stretch the physiological boundary. You must understand the essence of physicality in the world is a defined boundary. Without a defined boundary, there is no physical nature. Now you're trying to breach, in your longing to expand, you're trying to breach the physical boundaries of your existence. Well, it's a wrong way to do. This is why they're telling me 30% of the people are obese on the planet, because they're trying to stretch their physical boundaries, either absolutely physically or in terms of experiences. A whole world is moving in this direction. Somehow, they want to stretch their experiential dimension. Right now, because their whole experience is limited to physiological and psychological experiences, they're trying to stretch that. You think you're stretching it, all you're doing is memory. You cannot do anything else with these two dimensions. So, when you realize the limits of your physiological and psychological existence, that is when you will seek something beyond, which right now the English word is not really competent to describe, but the word consciousness
Hmm.
means a dimension beyond this. In the yogic culture, we call this chitta. An intelligence beyond memory is called chitta.
Let me put it this way. Is it more important to take care of the planet consciously, or is it more important first to take care of the inner journey consciously, or are they inseparable?
See, when you talk about taking care, for taking care you need knowledge, because taking care is survival. Whether you take care of this body, take care of this mental well-being, take care of your family or your society or global societies or all life on this planet, this is from knowledge. So taking care essentially means survival, isn't it? So don't link survival to consciousness. Being conscious that our life is, enmeshed with every other life on this planet is knowledge. It is not consciousness. But this knowledge could have come out of consciousness, but unfortunately, this knowledge also we have acquired incrementally, you know, piece by piece by piece. Through scientific knowledge, we pieced all this together and now we're talking about environmental science. But this is something that you could realize from your limitless sense of experience, because your experience transcended the limitations of your own genetic and evolutionary memory, and you know the way the world is made. In the sense, in yoga, we are always saying anda pindanda. What this means is, the way an atom is made, that's the way the entire cosmos is made. So individual life, if you realize the nature of this life, in a certain way, you have realized the nature of the whole cosmos. This is the basis of yogic science, that if you know the very essential nature of what this is, you know in reflection what everything else is. So, how do we have to take care of this planet consciously? Definitely, we have to take care of this body consciously, we have to take care of the planet also consciously, because your body is just a piece of this planet. If the planet is not healthy, your body is not going to be healthy, is a simple realization, but we have gone around 200 years of science to come to this and still we are not able to convince everybody on the planet, all right? Because there is no such inner experience, there is no realization of what am I made of, so it is just going on. And to convince somebody that the health of the planet is directly related to your own health and your life, just see how much it is taking. This is simply because you're trying to bring consciousness with bits and pieces of knowledge.
Hmm. Speaking about unhealthiness, since we're on the topic, given COVID and given the times of disease, let's say this time is a time where we are obviously afraid of the disease, we are afraid of contracting the virus, the planet may be in one way healing, but humans in one way are suffering. So the dichotomy between those two. Can you speak about that and speak about the times and health during these times, both mental and physical?
So, as you said, the dichotomy between the two, which means essentially we've gone away from the life process, how life
Hmm.
happens upon this planet. We've moved away. Our… as I said earlier, we have mixed up our psychological and social existence with the existential realities of life. Existentially, our life is not separate from the life even of the virus, I'm saying, because
Hmm.
there are more microorganisms in this body than the number of human cells that we have, actually, many more. So, our life is not different from the life of the virus. But right now, the virus lives so vigorously that in our body, it is becoming virulent in some sense. So, having said that, why have we moved away? Simply because we have taken our individual experience rather too seriously. We must understand that as you sit here, you're breathing. That means you cannot exist without the atmosphere. To sit here of this size and shape, you have eaten plenty in your life because it's just the soil which has become food and food which is sitting here as you and me. And the food that you eat, the water that you drink, the planet that you walk upon, the air that you breathe are not separate, it's all one existence. But it is the magnanimity of creation that for a tiny speck of a life like us, when I say a tiny speck, people think, what is he saying? Well, in the cosmic experience, if you look at the cosmic space, this solar system itself is a tiny, tiny speck. In that tiny speck of a solar system, planet Earth is a microspeck. In that microspeck, Los Angeles is a super microspeck. In that, you are a big man. This is a serious problem.
Hmm.
This is a
I
problem human being… It's okay. You said it's okay, you're used to abuse, you told me so.
I'm used to your meanness. It's okay. I'm used to it. I can
So
handle it.
this is the essential human problem, that they have taken their individual nature rather too seriously. We must understand, for a speck of a life that we are, that we are given an individual experience is not that something we earned. It is the magnanimity of creation that it's been given to us. But people are taking their individuality so strongly, now they're thinking, why this virus, why this bacteria? Arre, you and me exist because of virus and bacteria. Why is it
Hmm.
going wrong in my body? That's what we need to see. Why is it? It is not my friend. Why is it working against me? Why is it that I've brought something which is not my friend into my system? This is
Hmm.
something we need to look at it, but right now we are saying how to kill all the virus on the planet. If we kill all the microbes on the planet, that's the end of life on this planet.
I want to go back to something you said that is so beautiful, which is we are so we take our individuality very seriously, and but that's also because that's all we know. If you sit and you say to me, you can sit here and you can be the cosmos. I, through my experience of meditation and silence, may be able to experience that. But I feel people, it's very intimidating, I think almost scary for people to give up that individuality, because maybe for years and years and generations, that's all we've known as our individuality. I think that it feels intimidating for someone to realize that they are actually part of the cosmos, or that all is one, or that they are one with all. I think that it's a beautiful it's a beautiful experience. But I think what scares people is that either they'll say it's just a concept, it doesn't make sense, or if I am to believe that, then how am I, what happens to me? And I think this is, I would love to hear for someone who is almost slightly scared to jump into the ocean of all of this, what you would say to someone like that. Where does that initial fear come from?
Well, see, we kind of going back to this. I clearly said, you cannot approach limitless consciousness with limited knowledge.
Hmm.
Again, you're attempting that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
There is no need for every human being to think, how do I become cosmos and all this nonsense. It's
Hmm.
not necessary. First of all, you said, if I do believe that, you should not believe a damn thing.
Hmm.
You understand? You do not believe anything or disbelieve anything, that is when you have identified with your ignorance. Identifying with your ignorance means you clearly understand what you know is a minuscule, what you do not know is a boundless possibility. So if you have
Hmm.
identified with what you do not know, in a constant mode of seeking, if you are in a
Hmm.
constant mode of seeking, or the basic qualification to be a seeker is you have life not. Unfortunately, without knowing anything, you will have confidence. So people have chosen confidence against clarity in their life. Biggest mistake. Everybody wants to believe something. Because, I want you to just imagine, let's say right now you're fitting the role, in case you get a role like this on the television that you have to play a caveman. You're you're kind of growing there. You need to grow a little more, but you're
Yeah.
getting there, all right? So suppose you are a caveman. Without protection, you're just living outside. Most people don't know what this means. Only those who have been in the wild, who camped outside, but today camping is also like a luxury hotel. Okay, if you just been there without any equipment in the jungles, which I have spent weeks and weeks at one time, well, if it just rains, monsoon rain, people think all you need is an umbrella and run to your home. But you just stay in a tropical forest when the monsoon rain is pouring, with lightning, thunder, everything going and all creatures trying to find their own little shelter. The little shelter that you have found belongs to somebody else, and that guy will take it aggressively, all right? The whole experience of this planet and the way life is happening on this planet, if you just feel it, you will know what I'm saying. If you were in ages ago, without any protection, without any equipment, without even a watch, because that's how I was when I was in the jungles, I didn't even know what time it is, and I'm not even able to look at the stars or the moon or anything because it's cloudy and it's pouring rain. You don't know how long you've been soaked. You don't know when daylight will come. You slowly start having doubts, will it come at all? Is there a
Hmm.
guarantee? Because there's no guarantee about that either. So essentially, if you are there, then you… you felt so threatened, your existence. You felt how small you are and how your existence is threatened every moment. People are thinking their existence is threatened only because of this virus. No, your existence is threatened every moment, all right? If you are conscious of it, naturally, you would want to find something that builds confidence in you. So you decided to believe in something.
Hmm.
Initially, there's a thought, sun came up in the morning after being soaked in the rain for 12 hours. Then you said, sun must be God. Like this,
Hmm.
it grew. And then we made more human forms of gods and whatever. So you started believing in God, which gave you confidence, which did not give you clarity. Confidence without clarity is a disastrous process. And this disastrous process we have taken on for the last 2000 that continuously we've been building. This disaster has cost how many lives you can calculate in the last 2000 years? It's taken too many lives. This is the significance of India, that this was not a culture of belief, this was a culture of seekers. This is why you found them, though they were hugely empowered, massive kingdoms, enormous wealth, but they were always like this, bowing down to everything because there was no confidence. No confidence, we did not see it as a negative process. No confidence we saw as a possibility that you will naturally work towards clarity. The more clarity that arises in you, then you won't need confidence. See, right now you're walking during daytime, where you can see everything clearly. You don't need confidence to walk. But suddenly, let's say it's pitch dark and a new terrain. Well, now you need confidence because there is no clarity. So you are using confidence as an alternative for clarity. This is a disaster because when you have no clarity, one most important thing is at least you must have hesitation. Right now, for example, you mentioned the virus right now. See, we've been driving our economic engine in a certain way. Engine has been roaring. Every human being, every one of us, without exception, have been pushing the throttle as much as we can. But do you know who has the steering wheel? When the engine roars, the most important thing is somebody has a steady hand on the steering wheel. This is very important when the engine roars. Engine has been roaring. Do you know who is holding the steering wheel? Is anybody at all has a hand on the steering wheel? So you've been driving fast, but it is like, these people who are on, because you're from Los Angeles, I'm telling you, it is well before your time. In '60s and '70s, people took LSDs and jumped off the tall buildings thinking they're going to fly. And they did fly for some time. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know why you're looking at me. I don't take LSD. You're looking at me like that.
I didn't say anything.
Um, no, no, no. My parents are watching, please.
Today, the topic of our discussion is yoga and meditation is the source of inner pleasantness, a philosophical and spiritual inquiry. Introduction. Human search for pleasantness. Every human being, regardless of culture, belief, or circumstances, is fundamentally seeking one thing: a life that feels pleasant. Whether one call it happiness, peace, joy, or bliss, the undying aspiration is the same: to experience life in a way that feels fulfilling rather than burdensome. Yet, there is a paradox. Despite striving endlessly through external achievements, relationships, and sensory pleasure, pleasantness remains fragile and fleeting. What is gained today may be lost tomorrow. What delights now may later bring dissatisfaction. This instability suggests that the source of true pleasantness may not lie in external arrangements, but within the very structure of human consciousness. Yoga and meditation emerge in this context not merely as practices but as profound philosophical pathways. They offer a radical proposition that pleasantness is not something to be acquired from the world but something to be realized within oneself. The nature of experience, inner versus outer reality. Philosophically, Philosophically, all human experience is generated within. What we see, hear, feel, and think are processed and interpreted by the mind. Even the most external event, such as beautiful landscape or a painful loss, becomes meaningful only through inner perception. This leads to a crucial insight. If experience is generated within, then the quality of experience must also be determined within. Yoga and meditation focus precisely on the inner domain rather than attempting to control the external world, which is vast, unpredictable, and beyond total control. They work on refining the internal instrument of perception, the body, the breath, the mind, and ultimately consciousness itself. Yogic view, union and harmony. In the yogic tradition, the word yoga means union. Philosophically, it points to the dissolution of fragmentation within the human life. Ordinarily, a person lives in a state of inner division. The body may be restless, the mind may be conflicted, emotions may fluctuate, desires may contradict one another. This fragmentation creates friction, and friction manifests as suffering or unpleasantness. Yoga seeks to harmonize these layers. When body, mind, and awareness move in alignment, there is natural sense of ease. Pleasantness in this sense is not artificially created, it arises as a byproduct of inner coherence. Meditation and the nature of the mind. From a spiritual perspective, the mind is both powerful tool and a source of disturbance. It constantly oscillates between past memories and future projections, rarely resting in the present moment. This restless movement generates anxiety about what may happen, regret about what has happened, dissatisfaction with what is. Meditation introduces stillness into this turbulence. It is not about suppressing thoughts but also observing them without identification. As awareness deepens, one begins to see that thoughts are transient, emotions are fluid, identity itself can be constructed. This realization creates a space between the observer and the observed. In that space, a profound sense of peace emerges. Pleasantness is a natural state. A central philosophical claim of yoga and meditation is that pleasantness is the natural state of being. Unpleasantness arises not because life is inherently painful, but because of misalignment and unconscious pattern. Consider a simple analogy. When a lake is disturbed, its surface becomes turbulent and it cannot reflect clearly. When it is still, clarity and beauty are naturally revealed. Similarly, when mind is agitated, experience becomes unpleasant. When it is still, pleasantness naturally shines through. Thus, yoga and meditation are not about adding something new, but about removing disturbance. The role of awareness. Awareness is the cornerstone of all spiritual tradition. It is ability to observe without distortion. In ordinary life, the people are often entangled in their thought and emotions. They do not experience reality directly, but through layers of interpretation. Meditation cultivates pure awareness. This has profound implications. Freedom from reactivity. Instead of reacting impulsively, one responds consciously. Clarity of perception. Situations are seen as they are, not as one fears or desires them to be. Inner stability. External fluctuations no longer dictate internal states. This stability is the foundation of lasting pleasantness. Detachment and true enjoyment. One of the most misunderstood concept in spirituality is detachment. It is often interpreted as indifference or withdrawal from the life. In reality, detachment does not mean freedom from compulsive dependence. When one is attached, pleasant experience create fear of loss, unpleasant experience creates resistance. This duality generates suffering. The one when one is detached, one can fully engage with life yet remain inwardly free. Paradoxically, this freedom enhances the ability to enjoy life without fear and clinging. Every experience becomes richer and vivid. Beyond pleasure, from happiness to bliss. Philosophically, it is important to distinguish between different levels of pleasantness. Pleasure, dependent on external stimuli; happiness, a more stable emotional state; peace, absence of disturbance; bliss, or deep unconditional state of well being. Yoga and meditation gradually leads the practitioner from fleeting pleasure to enduring bliss. Bliss in this context is not excitement or ecstasy, but as a quite expensive sense of completeness. The dissolution of ego. At the deepest level, unpleasantness is linked to the sense of separate, limited self, the ego. The ego constantly compares, judges, and seeks validation. It thrives in division, success versus failure, gain versus loss, self versus other. This division creates tension. Meditation allows one to see through this constructed identity. As identification with the ego weakens, a sense of unity emerges. The unity is profoundly pleasant because there is no conflict, there is no fear of inadequacy, there is a sense of belonging to the whole, time, presence, and eternity. Most human suffering arises from psychological time, regret about the past, anxiety about the future. Rarely does one rest fully in the present moment. Yoga and meditation anchor awareness in the present. In doing so, they reveal a timeless dimension of experience. In pure presence, there is no lack, there is no urgency, there is only being. This state is inherently peaceful and pleasant. The spiritual paradox, effort and effortlessness. Yoga and meditation involves discipline, effort, regular practice, attention, and commitment. Yet, their ultimate aim is effortless being. This creates a paradox. One practices to reach a state that is already present. The effort is not to create pleasantness, but to remove obstacle to its recognition. Over time, practice becomes natural and pleasantness becomes effortless. Integration with the life. A truly spiritual understanding does not isolate practice from life. Instead, it transforms every moment into an opportunity for awareness. Walking becomes meditation, breathing becomes meditation, listening becomes meditation, life itself becomes a field of practice. In this integration, pleasantness is no longer confined to a specific moment, it permeates existence. Challenge on the path. The spiritual journey is not always comfortable. As awareness deepens, one may encounter suppressed emotion, deep seated fears, existential questions. These are not signs of failure but of progress. They represent layer of conditioning being brought to light. Facing them with awareness leads to profound healing and transformation. The ultimate realization. At its deepest level, yoga and meditation point towards a realization that the source of all pleasantness is not outside, not even in the mind, but in the very nature of consciousness itself. This realization is described in various traditions as self realization, enlightenment, or liberation. In this state, pleasantness is not dependent on condition, peace is unshakable, joy is intrinsic. Conclusion. The transformation of experience. Yoga and meditation do not merely add pleasant experience to life, they transform the very basis of experience. They shift the locus of control from the external to the internal, from the transient to the eternal, from fragmentation to unity. Pleasantness then is no longer something to be pursued, it becomes the natural fragrance of life lived in awareness. In this sense, yoga and meditation fulfill the deepest human aspiration not by changing the world but by revealing the profound completeness that has always existed within. Now we will share some ideas about truth, consciousness, and realization. A journey into essence of being. Introduction: The Eternal Quest. Human life, in all its diversity and complexity, is fundamentally a quest. Beneath the pursuit of wealth, success, relationships, and knowledge lies a deeper longing, a longing to know what is real, to understand who we truly are, and to experience a state of completeness that is not easily disturbed by the uncertainties of life. This quest has been expressed through different languages and traditions, yet its essence remains the same. It is the search for truth, the exploration of consciousness, and the ultimate attainment of realization. These three are not separate. Truth is the foundation, consciousness is the medium, and realization is the culmination. Together, they form the core of spiritual inquiry and philosophical reflection. Nature of truth. What is truth? Truth is often understood as factual correctness or objective reality. In daily life, truth may refer to statements that correspond to observable facts. However, in deeper philosophical sense, truth transcends mere information. Truth is that which is independent of perception, belief, or interpretation. It is not created by the mind, nor altered by opinion. It exists prior to thought and remains unchanged despite the fluctuation of human understanding. Relative truth and absolute truth. There are two dimensions of truth: relative truth, context dependent, shaped by perspective, culture, and experience; absolute truth, unchanging, universal, and beyond all condition. For example, the statement "this is hot" may be true for the person and not for another, but the existence of reality itself is not dependent on individual perception. Spiritual tradition emphasizes the discovery of absolute truth, the essence that underlies all appearances, the veil of illusion. What is truth and not readily apparent? Why is truth not readily apparent? Because human perception is filtered through conditioning, memory, desire, and fear, and cultural and social construct. These filters create a distorted view of reality, often referred to as illusion. This illusion is not necessarily false in a practical sense, but it obscures the deeper nature of existence. Truth is direct experience. Truth cannot be fully grasped through intellectual analysis alone. It must be experienced directly. Just as one cannot understand sweetness without tasting, one cannot understand truth without inner realization. This is where consciousness becomes central. The nature of consciousness. Defining consciousness. Consciousness is the basic fundamental field of awareness in which all experiences rises. It is absolute. It is the ability to know, the space in which thought, emotion, and sensation appears, the silent witness of all activity. Without consciousness, no experience is possible. Consciousness versus mind. The mind consists of thought, memories, and perceptions. Consciousness is the background in which the mind operates. Thought come and go, emotions rise and fall, but consciousness remains. Recognizing this distinction is a key step in spiritual understanding. Layer of consciousness. Human experience operates on multiple levels: surface awareness, everyday thinking and perception; subconscious, hidden pattern and conditioning; deep awareness, pure witnessing without thought. Meditation allows access to deeper layer, revealing the nature of consciousness beyond mental activity. The illusion of identity. Most people identify that their body, their thought, their role and level. However, these are temporary and constantly changing. Consciousness, on the other hand, is constant. Realizing this leads to profound shift from I am this to I am awareness itself. The journey towards realization. What is realization? Realization is not acquisition of new knowledge, but the recognition of what has always been true. It is the direct understanding of reality. It is the dissolution of ignorance. It is the awakening of one's true nature. Stage of the journey. A seeking. The journey begins with the sense of dissatisfaction. One realizes that external achievements do not provide lasting fulfillment. Inquiry. Question arises. Who am I? What is reality? What is the purpose of my existence? Practice. Through meditation, reflection, and disciplined living, one refines awareness, insight. Moments of clarity emerge, revealing truth. Stabilization. These insights become integrated into daily life. The obstacles to realization. Ego. The ego creates a sense of separation and identity. It resists dissolution because it fears non existence. Attachment. Clinging to experiences, beliefs, and desires creates dependency and suffering. Modern life is filled with constant stimulation, leaving little space for introspection.
Now we will be talking about Karma Yoga Sutras. In loosening awareness of self is the trap of karma. The hunter becomes the hunted, the architect becomes the bonded, laborer and the creator become creation. A spider trapped in a web of its own making is a tragedy.
The crippled fox and the generous lion. It happened.
On a certain day, a man was seized by spiritual thirst. In those days, when you were spiritually thirsty, you went to the jungle. Today, of course, that would be difficult given that there is not much forest around. So, this man went deep into a nearby forest and found a tree under which he sat cross legged and began intoning the sacred syllabus Now you can do for only so long. After that, the stomach has its own which asserts itself periodically. Each time his stomach growled, the man would go to a town for a meal. He would then come back and resume his austerities. One day he returned after his meal and sat down on a rock. He was about to resume his chanting when he noticed a fox. It had lost both its forelegs but was still well fed and healthy. This struck the man as distinctly odd. In a jungle governed by the law of the survival of the fittest, it was strange to find a disabled but healthy animal. How had this fox managed to survive? The man looked at it with some surprise. After a while, he resumed his practice. That evening, while meditating, he heard the growl of a lion. He promptly forgot his arm and chambered up a tree. A lion came by with a large chunk of meat in his mouth. To the man's amazement, the lion walked up to the crippled fox, dropped it in front of him, and walked away. The fox began talking into his dinner. The man looked on in disbelief. The same practice went on day after day. The man could not believe his eyes. a crippled fox being fed by a generous lion. This was a miracle. This has to be message from the God, he thought. What is God trying to tell me? He struggled with the question for a while, and then it dawned on him. When even a crippled fox was being fed in the jungle by a generous lion, why should he be keeping running to the town in search of food? Surely God wanted him to trust he would be provided for and wanted him to focus on what really counted, his spiritual practice. So the man changed his strategy. For the next 3 days, he kept up his own practice without stirring from his spot. By the 4th day, he was considerably weakened. By the 5th day, he would barely stay conscious. By the 7th day, he was grasping for life, caught in the throats of death. A yogi appeared to the passing this way. Hearing these noises, he found the man and asked, "What happened to you? Why are you in this condition?" "Because a divine message came to me, I obeyed it and see my plight," groaned the man. "What divine message?" And so the man related to the yogi an entire story of the crippled fox and the generous lion. "So tell me, yogi," gasped the man, "was this a divine message or not?" The yogi said, "Yes, of course, this was a divine message, but why did you choose to imitate a crippled fox rather than a generous lion?" And this is exactly what we have been doing to our understanding of karma. We have always had a choice between inclusive action and paralyzed volition, between intelligent dynamism and pathetic fatalism. Why do we often choose the latter? When we say our life is our karma, it means that our life is of our making. What incredible freedom this spells, and yet what devious way we have found to absorb ourselves to that responsibility. The moment we absolve ourselves of responsibility, our life resembles that of crippled fox rather than that of generous lion. In most cultures of the world, people have been told that God determines the course of their life. They must therefore look up to God. But in the East, we said there is nothing to look up to. In round planet that is spinning, what is up? Anyway, your karma was created by you, and it is unknowingly or unknowingly being created by the every moment of your life. Karma is therefore an invitation to look in within, not upward. Once you understand that you are 100% responsible for your life, you will naturally choose to live consciously rather than unconsciously. An unconscious life seems to be easy because it don't have to do anything other than live by your patterns and compulsion. But an unconscious life will not unfold the way you think you want it to be. It is at the mercy of the caprices of the compulsion. A conscious life, on the other hand, will unfold in the best possible way for you. Most people live in a state of great inner turmoil because they believe a God up there or other around them are responsible for their life. However, the moment you see my ability to respond is limitless, things settle. You have now shifted the source of creation from heaven to within. Now it does not matter whether you have confirmed tickets to heaven. Once you know the source of your life is thriving within you, those tickets are quite irrelevant. The significance of karma is that It means that none of your identities derived from beliefs, ideologies, religion, and system of morality are absolute. All of them are capable of constant evolution. Indeed, of all the crimes that human beings have committed against one another and every other creature, the idea of heaven is the worst of all, because the assumption is that life happens at its best elsewhere, not here and now. Karma means that you are capable of being at your best and doing your best in this very lifetime. It implies a movement towards your ultimate well being. It means you are capable of being in heaven in the lap of the divine within yourself right now. Now you may ask, if karma means taking complete responsibility, what is grace? What is the role of the divine in our life? Is karma a denial of God? No, it is not. Let's look at this closely. What do we mean when we say the word divine? By the divine we mean the source of creation. Where is this source? Within you. Only because you are life are you capable of wondering about the source of life. So the question is, are you going to rest content knowing only the skin, flesh and bone that make up your physical form? Or are you going to seek the very source of creation within you? If you know only the physical, you will live in the particular way. If you know the mental and emotional dimension of your life, you will live a deeper way. But if you touch the very source of your life, you are available to grace. Your entire life becomes divine. Walking alone the spiritual path. The one thing every seeker needs to remember is that the inner journey can only be undertaken alone. Once this realization dawns, it marks the birth of a spirituality. The realization is sometimes scary for those who are used to living in groups, to making collective life decisions. Yes, you can work together in the outside world, but in the inner world, everybody walks alone. It happened. A yogi was walking through the forest. He was suddenly accosted by a highway robber. This was notorious robber with a reputation of looting and murder. He was about to strike the yogi when the yogi asked, "Why are you accumulating these terrible karmas?" "What for?" "I have to support my family," said the robber. "I am responsible for my wife, my children, my old parents, and I have to kill you." "If you are doing this for the sake," said the yogi, "it is also time you found out it if somebody is willing to carry the burden of your karma. Please go home and find out. Tie me up in this tree so I cannot escape. Just go home and find out for yourself who is willing to carry your karma." So the highway robber went home. He asked to his family, "I support you by killing people and looting them daily. Will you support me by sharing my karma?" His father said, "Nothing doing. I am your old father. It is your business to take care of me. How you take care of me is your karma." He went to his mother. She said the same thing. He went to his wife and children. They said the same thing. It is the duty to take care of us. How you take care of us is your problem. Why would we share the karma of murderer?" Disillusioned, the man came to the yogi and fell at his feet. "You are right. Everyone is willing to partake of the reward of my karma, but no one is willing to share responsibility for the adverse consequence of my action. Karma cannot be distributed democratically. While there is a dimension of collective karma or kula vedana, there is also the allotted karma that every person has to work out. Whether it is worked out with meditation or love, with awareness or ecstasy, does not matter. The realm of individual responsibility exists, and it cannot be avoided. It is sure that separateness or individuality is fundamentally a myth. However, as long as a person is invested in this myth, the karmic bondage remains. The greater the investment, the greater the karmic bondage. In moments of great devotion, however, when the level of involvement is low and the individual's personality has almost dissolved, it is possible for the veil of karma to be lifted. It is said that when saints like Jesus and Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, Buddhist master, and innumerable yogis walked the earth, people were cured of their ailments just by touching their garment. An enlightened master can certainly create the possibility for person's karma to dissolve faster. What would happen in 100 lifetimes would be worked out in a few minutes. The presence of these masters could therefore have created an opportunity for these affiliated people's karmas to dissolve more swiftly. It is also possible on rare occasions for a master to take on an individual's karma, but most of the time the karmic allotment, even if you put on fast forward, still has to be worked out by the individual. As long as you consider yourself to be an individual, you cannot pass the buck. The karma are your own. The way out of karmic wave. As we have seen earlier, the yogic system tells us that every human being is composed of 5 bodies: the physical body, the mental body, the energy body, the etheric body, and the bliss body. Karma is primarily imprinted on first 3 levels. If we address the first 3 levels, we can attain a certain state of extraordinary freedom from the karmic labyrinth. Many people speak of freedom but have no clue that they are getting more and more deeply entrapped in their own karmic maze. Despite being gifted with phenomenal levels of intelligence, they have forgotten the way out of self-created web. In losing awareness of self is the trap of karma. The hunter becomes the hunted, the architect becomes the bonded laborer, the creator becomes the creation. A spider trapped in a web of its own making is a tragedy. It happens. On a sunny afternoon, Shankaran Pillai decided to go to fishing. He took a case of beer to drink while it was a particularly hot day. As he waited to get lucky, he started slipping beer. Fishing is patience game, but most people don't know how to wait. As Shankaran Pillai waited, he consumed can after can be beer. The afternoon wore on. The hot sun and the beer made him dorsey. All of a sudden, a big fish bit the belt and toggled at his fishing line. A dorsey Shankaran Pillai was sitting at the very edge of the river bank, slipped and fell over the water. A small boy and his father were passing by. The little boy turned to his father and said, "Daddy, look, is the man fishing the fish or the fish manning the man? Look at your own life and answer the question as honestly as you can. Are you running your own life or is it running you? You have pursued so much of your well-being Your home, your business, your car, your spouse, your child, your club membership. But look back now and see, have you caught the fish or has the fish caught you? It is time to stop the saddle. There is only one way out of the spider's web, and it is the age old journey from unawareness to awareness, from compulsion to consciousness. The journey known to the greatest yogis and the mystic of all over the world, the journey back to who we are. The yogic tradition has long had a term for this karma yoga. Karma yoga. What exactly is karma yoga? It is process of using your karma as a process of liberating yourself. The logic of karma yoga is simple. Every single activity you engage in can be used as a process of entanglement or as a process of liberation. If your activity is used as a process of entanglement, it is karma. If you use the same activity as a process of liberation, it is karma yoga. However, the misconceptions about karma yoga are many. A great many people use the term freely and erroneously. It is time to clear the many fallacies that have distorted human understanding and that they have created over the years more confusing and than clarity, more heat than light. Let's start with the first misconception. Many believe that karma yoga means unrelenting action. This is untrue. Karma yoga is not about being busy. It is not about being in constant doer mode. It is instead about engaging in the kind of activity that frees you, about performing the kind of action that leads you to your own higher nature, towards your freedom. There is also a widespread premise that karma yoga means social service, that karma yogi is a do-gooder. This is yet another myth. Mere service is not karma yoga. Karma yoga has nothing to do with the type of action that you perform, but rather how you do it. Even good deeds can be performed compulsively rather than consciously. This can lead to entanglement rather than liberation. It is what that makes the difference. It is the volition that counts. If action creates bondage, it is karma. If action creates freedom, it is karma yoga. If you perform action miserably, it is karma. If you perform action joyfully and effortlessly, it is karma yoga. It happened. On a certain day, 3 men were walking on a site. A passerby came and asked the first man, "What are you doing?" The man looked at and said, "Have you blind? Can't you see? I am cutting stone." The passer went to the second man and asked the same question. "What do you think I am doing?" Growled the second man, "I am trying to earn my living. I need to fill my belly." The passerby went to the third man and asked again, "What are you doing here?" The man stood up in great joy. "I am building a glorious temple." All these 3 men are doing the same work. For the first man, his work was simply cutting stone. For the second, his work was simply a means to eke out a livelihood. For the third, his work was an opportunity to create something beautiful that is cared or deeply. This how is the pivotal issue. Every single action in your life can be like this. It is not the content of your life that matters, it is the context of your life that does. So, becoming a karma yogi does not mean you have to give up whatever you are doing right now. It means you do it with wholehearted involvement and in the process help create a more joyful world around you go. The problem with today's world is that we have created a rigid ideas of right and wrong. When our minds are so full of hierarchy, it is impossible to be wholeheartedly involved in any action.